Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Fireside Chat on learning activity reporting within Prism. Today's presenters are Shibata Fuge, who is our Senior Product Manager, and Kantika Lidandi, who is our Product Manager here at Exxat. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please add your questions in the questions box. We will be pausing periodically to ensure your questions are answered. If you'd prefer to voice your question or have comments or feedbacks for us, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll go ahead and unmute you. As usual, you can download today's presentation to follow along or keep as a reference. You can find that in the handout section. This webinar will be recorded and shared with you along with the presentation via email 1 hour after the webinar ends, and will also be made available on our YouTube channel. We're going to give folks just a couple of minutes just to let everyone get logged on and get their audio sorted. We'll give it 1 to 2 minutes. We'll be back with you in just a few moments. All right, and without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Kanti, if you're all set, you can take it away.
Thank you, Rocio. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kanti, and I'm going to present the learning activity reporting webinar along with Shubhda. So today, what we would want to cover today are these are the topics that we want to cover. So we will go over the types of reporting that we have currently in Prism, and we'll talk about how you can access the reports and how the different roles that we have created in Prism, how they can access the reports. We'll cover that. And then Shubhda will cover what are the new reports that we are planning to get added under learning activities. So that's a topic that Shubhda would cover later during the session. Okay, so let's get started. So on the types of reports, so currently in Prism, we have the reports where you can see the responses of the form across a rotation or multiple rotations. You also could get the aggregate patient log data across the courses or across the rotations. We also have reports where you can pull the graphical representation of the patient log information. And if you are using timesheets, you also can aggregate the timesheet data according to the categories, and also you get the summary of a week by week summary of the timesheet hour. So this is in general the types of reports that we currently have in Prism. So I'm just going to quickly log into the system and would also like to share where you can see the reports. Okay, so when you log in, you go to the learning activities section from the dashboard, and you see the reportings navigation here under the learning activities. So when you go in, here is where you will see all the list of reports related to the learning activities. Okay, so this section is is visible to all the programs, all the schools, and all the domains. So you can access all these reports. Okay, now I just want to take a few moments to show you what type of features or functionality we have in the reporting. Okay, so I'm going to pick the first one on the list, which is the forms and evaluations reporting. So when you go and would like to see the report, you can select a course, or you can select multiple courses to see the data. Okay, so right now I'm going to select a course, and then as I select the course, I can select the form that I can use to see the data. And when I select the form, I also can further filter on the different rotations that are associated with that course, or different settings that I have the students placed for different settings. I can select from the settings. I can even also select from the status of the form. Like if I just want to see the responses of the forms that I have reviewed, or I just want to see the forms that that are still under pending, I can even further filter on the status. Okay, so once you selected the course, you can say you can click on the generate report, and that will give you the responses here. Okay, so this is how all the reports on that list would work. So you can either go by selecting one course or multiple courses, and further filter down your data with the options that we have provided here. Okay, and after generating the report, if you further want to slice and dice the data, do your own analysis, you also have an export to Excel tool that you can use to export all the data to an Excel spreadsheet and do further analysis on the data. Okay, so this is how the reporting works currently in Prism. Now let's go back, and in addition to the general reports here, we also have reports that are related to accreditation. So we also have accreditation reports created for PT/PTA, which are the CAPT reports, and but these reports are housed only for the PT/PTA schools. The other programs don't get to see these reports, and the information for these reports is coming from the CI details and the site evaluation forms. I want to also give another example of accreditation reports that we currently have in Prism, which is for the nurse anesthesia program. So for nurse anesthesia program, the accreditation reports are coming from the patient log, from the case logs, and then we are able to report on the data that they are capturing. So here, what I want to highlight here is, depending upon the different domains accreditation needs, we can create the reports depending upon your accreditation needs, and just activate it for your program or the domain. Okay, so that is also possible. Today we also have competency based reports that we have created for nutrition, and Shubda would go in a little bit more detail to explain how this competency based reporting would work. But I just want to highlight, we are also now getting started creating the competency based reports. Okay, so those are the types of reports that we have. Now let's see how you can access the reports that you have in Prism, provided the role given to you. Okay, so first let's see what are the different types of roles we support in Prism. So we have the school admin role that that has access to all the kinds of reporting. Okay, and the school admin, they can access the reports again. If they want to see the reports just for a course, they can access it. They can also access reports at a course group level. So today you can create course group based on a cohort or based on a calendar year. So you can now group your courses, and you are able to see the reports pertaining to that course group. Okay. We also have a reporting view that we provide at a student level. So if you want to see what are all the learning activities that a student has filled, so today we provide the learning activity view at a student level as well. So those are the different views, or different access points for the school admin role. In Prism, we also have developed a faculty login, and you can assign the access to the faculties based on courses, or based on the placements, or based on the advisor role of that faculty. Okay, so if you have a course faculty, they also can access the reports at the course level, and they can also access reports at uh, different courses. They can, combine the courses that are assigned to them and also see the reports related to those courses. At a placement faculty level, they get to see the aggregate views of patient logs and timesheet at the placement level of the student. Um, and as an advisor, a faculty can access the aggregate data of the patient log and timesheet for each placement of their advisees. Okay, we do also have a learning activity view for the student role, and when the student logs in, they get to see all the learning activity information, and they can also get the aggregate views of the patient logs and the timesheet. Okay, again, I've just explained all these roles, but I want to take some time to actually show you where in the system you can go and access these reports. Okay, let me go.
Kanti, we do have a question here from Adeline. What's the difference between course faculty and placement faculty?
Okay, good question. Course faculty is the role where the faculty gets access to all the students who are registered and placed in that course, so they can see all the student placements in the course. Now, placement faculty would only have access to the placements which they have been assigned to, so they don't get to see all the students in the course and all their information. They will be just be able to see the student information that they have been assigned to for a placement. So that is the difference.
And I'll just add a little bit of color to this for everyone's advantage, Kanti. This is considering the FERPA regulations. We do have some schools who have a very large pool of faculty helping them with their large number of students in clinical education. And what they do is each faculty is assigned 5 or 6 placements to supervise. So this role allows them to only show the data for those placements that they are responsible for without oversharing all the student data. So that's a role, that placement level faculty role, that we have created for schools that have the need for that role. Go ahead, Kanti.
Okay, so now let me show you, so that way it'll be much more clear. So let me go to the dashboard. So if you have the school, like, admin access, so this is the dashboard that you will see. And here I will show you the different ways how you can get to the reporting. Okay, so if you would like to get to the reporting at the course level, you come to the learning activities section from the dashboard, which is here, or you can also use the hamburger menu to get to the learning activities. And here you will see all the list of courses here, right? And towards the right side of the page, you will see a link for the reports. Okay, so if you click on the reports, you can access all the reports for that specific course. Okay, so this is one way to access the reports. Now, let's say if you are if you want to see all the data of a cohort, right, of all the learning activities, but for a cohort. So what you would do is you can create a group, okay, by selecting the add group, and create groups like this, and select the different courses that are related to the cohort. For example, here class of 2022, so these are all the rotations or the courses related to that cohort. So you can create groups like this, and from here you can access the report section here. Now, these reports would have the data across all the courses that you have selected. Okay, so this is how as a school admin you can get to view the reports at a course level or across the multiple courses. Okay, now the third view, which is if you are trying to do like, student performance tracking. You want to see how many patient logs the student added, how many hours they have entered. So for that, you can go to the student section here. Okay, and from here you can select the student, and then there is a learning activities tab that is added here. Okay, you click on the learning activities, and then you will see tabs for the 4 different learning activities that we have in Prism, which is forms, patient log, timesheet, and time off. Okay, now for the forms, again you can further select the course and see all the forms that are related to that course and what is the status of the forms. If you want to see the patient log information, you would select the patient log tab, and you will see all the courses and the counts of logs for each of those courses here. For timesheet, you will see the breakdown for each of the courses, but you can also see the aggregate totals across all the courses on top of the table here. Okay, and for time off also across the courses, if the student has entered any time off, you also get to see that information here. Okay, so this is the view that you would get for each student, but across all the courses where the student have been placed at. So I'll take a pause here and see if there are any questions here.
Kanti,
Okay,
can we also quickly show, since Adeline asked about it,
I
how
will.
course faculty can be assigned a role and how placement faculty quickly via our admin screens, just so it's clear that those two are different roles.
Definitely. So now let me show you how you can assign a course faculty and a placement faculty. Okay, so if you would like to assign a faculty to a course, so what you would do is you can go to your course offering section. Okay, and you can pick a course here, and after you pick a course, towards the right side of the screen you see a faculty and staff section. So to assign your course faculty, you would simply click on the plus, and you will start seeing the faculty and staff that you have added into Prism. And from here, you would select the faculty, you can assign them a role, and these roles also can be, we can define these roles based on what your program calls them. So we can set up your own list, and you can select the role here and then just say add and save. So that is how you are assigning a course level faculty for a course. Okay, now let me show you how would you assign a placement level faculty. So for that, let me see if I can pick a course that already has placements.
Kanti, we have a question or a request. Maybe this can be done towards the end, but Bridget wants to see the student view of a student entering a timesheet.
Sorry?
The question from Bridget is, can you show the student view of a student entering a timesheet?
Okay, yeah, I can answer that at the end of the session. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so now let's see how you can assign the faculty at the placement level. Okay, so for that, you come to placements, you have picked your course, and under the placement section, as you are placing the student, okay, you have a faculty drop down on the drawer that shows up. So let it load so I can show you
Yeah.
that.
While it's populating, Kanti, I'll just add, because Addy had a follow-up question that I see, that I just thought there was admin access and faculty access. You are 100% correct, Addy. So the two modes of access are access to the main module or the administrator module, and then faculty have access to the faculty module. But within that module, there are two tiers of access. So faculty can either click on my courses, and they would see all the courses where they are tagged as a course faculty, and Kanti just showcased how you can assign that access. But then they also have a tile called my placements, and when they click on that, they get access to those placements where they are tagged as a placement faculty, which Kanti is going to showcase now to you. So via the faculty access, you can assign them different tiers of access. Either tag them to the entire course or tag them to a placement inside of a course. So go ahead, Kanti, you can explain.
So this is the placement drawer. So as you are making the placement, you see a drop down for placement faculty. So here is how you can assign a faculty as a placement faculty. So I simply select and when I place, I see the placement faculty assigned to this. If I open it, I see the placement faculty assigned to that placement. Okay, now let me show you. So you have done the assignment. Now let me go in and show you as a faculty, when you log in using our faculty login, how you can see this information. Okay, so I have already a faculty, a faculty login that I have used and logged into Prism. So this is how the faculty dashboard would look like. It is slightly different from the school admin dashboard because here we are only giving them access to the information at a course level, placement level, or at a student level, though they don't have access to the sites and other sections of the system. Now I have assigned a faculty to the course and also the student placement, right? I just showed you that. Now, after you assign, how does the faculty see that information? So as a course faculty, I get to see a tile for courses. Now, if I go click on the courses, I can see all the courses that I have been assigned to. So this is how the course faculty get to see all the courses they have been assigned to, and then they can further click on the course to see the information within that course. So they get to see the students, they get to see the placements, and they also get to see the learning activities and the learning activity reporting. Now these reports have the data for this course here. So if I actually click on a report, I can show you. So this is the data that the course faculty is able to pull for course number 693 here. Okay, so that is how the course faculty login works, and how this is how they are able to access the data and reports within that course. Okay, now let me show you as a placement faculty, because we also can assign the faculty at the placement level, how they access the information. So for the placement faculty, there will be a tile called student placements, and they can click on the tile and can see the courses and the students that they have been assigned to. So if you see here, they cannot see other students. They get to see only the placements for which they have been assigned to, right? And then if I further go into this view called the course view, here they can see the learning activities related to that placement. So for example, the nursing 593, I have, like, as a placement faculty, I can see the information just for this placement. So if I want to review the forms, I click on the forms and I can review them. I can also click on the patient log to see the patient logs that are entered by that student for that placement. Okay, so this is all at the placement level, and this is how the placement faculty gets to see the learning activity information. Now, we also talked about another role called student advisor role. So if you have been assigned a student advisor role and would want to see all the learning activity information of your advisees, you would go click on the advisees tile, and that will show you all the students that you are advising. And then from here, you can actually select the student and go to the learning activity tab to see all the learning activity information of that student. Okay, so this is how the different tiers of faculty get to see the learning activity information. I'll take a pause here again to see if there are any further questions.
Not seeing any questions, Kanti.
Okay. So we
So
have.
Kanti, I'll just quickly add that we did a detailed faculty module webinar a few days ago, and we can post the recording of that or a link for that in case you want to get more details about how the faculty access works at all these three levels. It would be a great webinar to listen into in case you missed it. And just to clarify that all the data access that a faculty can have, either around the courses that they help manage, either around the placements that they supervise, or either data associated with their advisees, they can get access at all these three different tiers via the same login and the same faculty module, via the three different tiles that Kanti just showcased. So more details in that webinar. So please have a listen at that webinar, and that will help you clarify some of these points.
Okay, thank you, Vishaka. Now, lastly, I just want to also show you how a student role can see the learning activity information. Okay, so for that, let me quickly log into a student. So I have logged in as a student now. And for the student, they see a learning activity tile on their dashboard. And if they go under the tile, they can see the information of the learning activities across all the courses here. So for example, they have the forms and evaluations. So the student got placed under NURS 557 and 593, but when they click, they get to see all the forms that they have filled for that course. And patient log also the same. So they can see all the courses and all the number of logs they have been filling for each of these courses. So this is how they get to see the information of all the learning activities across courses. Okay, they do get to see the learning activity information under clinical coursework, but that is mainly they would want to go in and use it when they are filling. So they can see the information there also, but at the placement level. But if your students are looking for an aggregate view, then learning activity tab would be more helpful for them to see that information in one place. Okay, I think I just want to make sure I have covered everything. Okay.
I have another question for you, Kanti.
Yes, go ahead.
If someone is a student advisor, can they still manage things on a course aggregate level from Ricky?
Manage, can you see if she can, like, ask her question? It would be helpful.
Yeah. Let me see. Ricky, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you just so you can give us a bit more of detail on your question. You might have to unmute yourself on your end, but you should be able to speak.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have faculty that are at all three levels, and I was just curious if we have them assigned as student advisors, the view under the course and the student placements was really nice because it was an aggregate of all the students for that course. And I was just curious if they would have access to that view as well at the student advisor level.
No, you have to assign them as a faculty at the course, so they get to see the information at that course level.
Okay.
Okay.
But Kanti, for to piggyback on your response, right, to Ricky's question, for their advisor, are they able to see aggregate view for all the courses that the student, their advisee is registered to? Do we have that view?
Yeah, they can do it. Like, let me go back to the faculty. So they get that access for each student, but if they want to see all the students in that course, then they have to get
Yeah.
access.
So advisee by definition mean that they will only be advising some students and they will only be able to see data for their advisees. But when they click on the advisee, then would they be able to see the learning activities for that advisee across courses? So
Yes.
example here, all the courses that the student is registered to, they're able to get all of that information from this page, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And one call out is from your advisee section, obviously you're not allowed to edit the learning activities because that's not what typically advisors do. They need visibility into how the student is performing, but they're not necessarily assessing the student. So they're not able to edit the learning activities, just review or have visibility into what learning activities have been completed, what is the assessment. Whereas if you are a course faculty or a placement faculty, you can influence the assessment itself, meaning that you can change the, how it has been filled, or you can review it, or you can have more control over the scoring because you are helping teach the student and assess the student. So that's the main difference between the access. Okay,
Okay.
Kanti, you can
Yeah.
take it.
Okay, Vishaka, thank you. And one more call out is for the course and the student, placement faculty. They access the information for just for that course. Like they cannot see the information of other courses or the learning activity information of other courses. And with the placement faculty, they just get to see the placement information of just that placement. They don't get to see the placement information or the learning activity information of that student of other courses. So we would like to understand if you have different faculties working with your programs. Generally, do you want your faculty that are coordinating these courses or working with the students for placements, do you generally want them to see the data of the patient logs or the timesheet of the past courses? So that's why we have a poll for you. The next is the poll, and we just want to hear from you if your program does use this course level or the placement level faculty. Today we are only showing the data related to the courses or the placements they have been assigned to. Do you see a need that these faculty would want to know the past placement information of the patient logs or the timesheets? So
I'm just going to explain a little more context about this question. We are aware that we do not want to show student assessment data from other courses to this faculty, because if they are not involved with that course, right? We are aware of that. It's a FERPA violation. That's why we are specifically asking about patient log data and timesheet, because that's not student assessment. It's basically their logging experience that can help the current course faculty assess what previous experience has the student had in logging patients, or what kind of timesheet hours have they spent. So we are not talking about specific course related evaluations on students. We are talking about patient logs and timesheets here. So please go ahead and provide a response if that's helpful. Some of our schools do like to provide that visibility to course faculty for this information, patient logging and timesheets done on previous courses. So is this something that you would use for your faculty in your program?
All right, folks, you can go ahead and put your votes in. It looks like so far we have about 43% of you who have responded, so we'll leave it open for just a bit more to see if we can get some more responses here. All right, we have about 57% of you voted. We'll leave it open for about 10 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and close the poll and share the results with you. Okay, I will be closing the poll and sharing those results with you. It looks like majority of you guys do agree to provide access to past patient log counts and timesheet hours,
Oh,
of course, in place in faculty.
thank you, Roshi, and thanks everyone for answering that question. Now let's move on with the session. So, any questions for me before I pass it on to Shubhda?
Not seeing any questions, Kanti.
Okay, then Shubhda, I think then you can take over from here. I can help you, like, drive the slides, but you can go ahead and start talking.
Thank you, Kanti. Hello, everyone. I'm Shubhada. I'm working as a senior product manager, and let's go through what are the new exciting reports that we have in the pipeline for learning activities. So far, as you have seen, a lot of the reports that we have in the system are either uh, focused on providing data or the responses that students have filled in for their assessments, or or the patients that they have logged. But it is mostly about aggregating that data and just mostly showcasing what information has been filled. But the focus that we are going to have in the future is going to be a lot around tracking student performance. So student performance tracking, as you know, can be done by just tracking students' grades and scores across their learning activities, across their curriculum, but also through tracking the competencies and students' performance against those competencies. So in the presentation, we will look at both the how we're tackling both the types of trackings. I should not probably call it types of tracking, but that's just the focus areas for us to when we look at students' performance tracking. So as some of you who are already using Prism might know, we are already providing a scoring function for the forms, for your evaluations, and your assignments and those activities. But in the coming future, we are also going to be releasing grade books. Grade books will help you guys to also track and enter and calculate students' GPAs, CGPAs across their curriculum, across throughout their program. So that being said, this will generate a lot of information around how the student has been performing, and then our next focus is going to be providing analytics on top of this information. So the reports that we would be building for student performance tracking will not simply be data extraction or spreadsheet kind of reports. We will be focusing more around insight-based reporting and a little bit more graphical reporting for this kind of reports. So we will just go through a couple of examples of what kind of insights could be generated. So as you can see, there are these two ways of looking at the students' GPA data. You could track how a student is performing against and compare their performance against the rest of the class. In the first graph, you can see the pink line shows you how the student has performed across different terms, and you can obviously you will be able to choose which terms you want to see this comparison for, and then against that the purple line shows you how the class has performed during the same duration. This gives you a very good idea if there is a sudden dip in students' performance, that something needs to be done, maybe some intervention or some action needs to be taken. We would also be, based on these kind of data insights, we would also be helping you generate a student watch list, which is another feature that we will be releasing along with the student performance tracking. In the second graph here, you can see this could be used, for example, to track students' performance within a specific type of assessment. So here the example is of end of rotation evaluation. And you can see across various rotations how the student has performed versus how the rest of the class has performed. Again, this gives you a very good understanding of students' standing. So yeah, so there would be, these two are just examples of what kind of insights we could generate, but there would be a lot more such reports which would be designed towards giving you actionable insights around students' performance. Let's move to the next slide. Similar to how we just saw, you could track individual students' performance. Similarly, if you wanted to compare one a class with a previous class, and how the current class has been performing vis-a-vis your previous batches, even that kind of comparison could be generated. Again, this is one example wherein you could compare the average GPA that students of different classes have obtained for a given course. So course 1 is a course that is offered in 2020 for class of 2020, class of 2021, and class of 2022, and you could see how the students have performed. Now, before we move to the next slide, these are just examples. Of course, on these reports, you would also have a lot of options to slice and dice the data further. If you just want to look at it from a particular focus point, maybe if you just want to look at, for example, assessment data from the focus point of a particular setting, you could do that. So all those types of filtering capabilities will be added here, and we'll try to make this as much insight driven as possible. We'll pause for any questions so far.
Not seeing any questions, Shibata.
Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so the second part of student performance tracking, like I said earlier, would be competency tracking. So competency tracking, we have started building on this. We have, in fact, also built certain reports for a few of the Prism schools that they needed specifically. But the way we are approaching it today is we have built out a capability in the system where you could map your competencies with the questions that you are setting up in your assessments evaluation forms. And through this mapping, we are able to generate insights. For example, how many times a student has been assessed against a particular competency, how they have performed against that competency across, across different courses. You could also compare their performance against other students' performance, and so on. So today this is done from the backend, but in the upcoming months, we will be building out capability for you people to do it from the front end, and map your competencies with the questions that you are setting up for evaluations and assessments. Again, there will be insights-driven analytics reports that will be built on top of this, and we will look at some examples in the next slides. Kanti, next slide, please. So this is the example of a plain competency tracking sheet that is currently available as we speak within Prism. So here, like I had said earlier, we have, in the backend, we have done mapping of competencies with the questions that are present for various forms and evaluations that are set up for this particular school. Of course, the data has been changed to show you here, but yeah, you can see the first column is all about the competencies, and you could identify it the way you want, but yeah, those are the competencies, and the succeeding columns after the first column are all about different forms and different courses that a student is taking. By the way, this particular sheet is only for one student. So you are generating the report for one student at a time. And then for each of the course that they have taken within the semester, you get columns for each of those courses that they have taken up. So what you see in the cells is the average score the student has obtained whenever a particular competency was evaluated. So that's what the number tells you. So for in the first column, you can see 8.07. So that's the average that the student has received for this course against competency 1.1.5. On the extreme right, the second last column tells you the number of times the student was evaluated for a particular competency. So if there were 10 questions across, or in this example 24 questions that evaluated student for competency 1.1.5, then that's the count that you see here. So if there is also a possibility that you have set up some questions to be evaluating some competency, but a lot of times the evaluator may not evaluate student for that question. So those questions would not be considered in this count, and that is why you see different numbers for different competencies over here. The last column is for mean score, so how much the average of how much the student has scored across all the different courses and all the different forms against a particular competency. So this is what you can see for one student. And now based on all of this data, there could be a lot of graphical representation for you to do comparison and to understand or make better sense of the data that is being presented on this sheet over here. Again, I will take a pause. Any questions?
Not seeing any questions, Shibata.
Shubda, I'll just add a couple of points to what you explained. What Shubda is showing us here is something that is either in development or planned for the upcoming months. So we are evolving this functionality of student performance tracking. And she's already deployed some of the graphs or reports that she just showed, while others are still in development. So you'll see more and more in this area coming into the product over next several months up till the end of the year. So that's a little bit about the timeline of when you can expect some of these enhancements. And the second one is a lot of these are going to be customizable, as Shubda mentioned. So in the previous report, for example, you could just see the competency numbers. But if there was a preference, you could also see actually the competency called out or the names in those columns as well. So it's easy to consume those reports. So those are some of the things that I wanted to call out. Go ahead, Shubda.
Okay, thanks, Vishaka. So, so what we are looking at here is again insights-driven reports based on the data that we just saw. So, on the first report, you can see a student's performance against certain competencies is being compared against the rest of the class. So, if you can see the lilac color is class average versus the bluish purple color, that's how the student has been performing. You also see, since this is a radar graph, you could see the students basically the shape of how they have been performing against those competencies. So a lot of programs would have an ideal shape that they would want their students to have by the end, by the time they graduate. So that can be compared, and it gives you a good visual of how the student has been performing against the competencies that the school is tracking. Of course, this report would also have many different ways for you to slice and dice again. You could also choose the competencies for which you want to generate the report, and so on. So a lot of flexibility in terms of how you would generate the report. But yeah, the second report is again giving you kind of a comparison around how students of different batches, different cohorts have been performing against against set competencies. So you can see when course 1 was offered to class of 2020, how the students performed against each of the competencies. Same with class of 2021 and class of 2022. Again, you can choose your filters, and you can this gives you a very good idea of how different cohorts of students have been performing. This similar kind of report can again be generated for an individual student. It could also be generated if you just wanted to look at their clinical courses, if you just wanted to look at clinical courses in terms of certain settings, or if you just wanted to look at certain performance against certain rotations. So all of those variations would be provided and would allow you to look at the data from different points of view. Okay, Kanti, next slide. So we have a open discussion around this topic. We would like to understand from you what different parameters do you consider when you're tracking student performance, so that will help us to put in more types of reports and consider those requirements as well. So if you guys could put in your answers in the comments, we could, or if somebody wants to talk, just put it in the comments and we could unmute you.
And just a little more context for this open-ended question. What we're trying to ask is, we already know that you're interested in tracking an individual student's performance across courses, across competencies, so you can help them and do any needed interventions. So that is one set of reporting that we are aware you would need. The second set of reporting that we are aware is you would want to compare a particular student's performance with their class average. So that's another parameter that we are aware of that you would want to consider. And then the third is where it's more related to accreditation needs, where you would want to gauge and track how your curriculum is allowing your students to perform year over year. So comparing cohorts for a course, how a cohort performed. So class of 2021 versus 2022 versus 2023 for a given course, right? So these three parameters we are aware of, but is there anything in addition to this that you can think of or that you can provide us feedback on as we are evolving this capability in our product? And if you prefer to just, speak up, just raise your hand and we're happy to unmute you.
We do have a comment from Joni here, giving her feedback. I'll go ahead and read that out for everyone to hear. In our programs, we are viewing a combo of timesheet and patient log entries and evaluation results to assess their learning progress. One of our evals is scored by clinical faculty following a site visit where they observe the student and visit with the preceptor. All of those items collectively help us assess the student's progress.
I see. So thank you for that comment, Joni. Based on the comment, we understand that a hybrid kind of report that gives you that visibility into a little bit of patient logging data, timesheets, as well as their rotation evaluation. A report or a view like that would help you to assess where that student is and how they're doing.
Yeah, to that end, there is a report in the pipeline which will be released relatively sooner. Is something that we are calling productivity report, which gives you information about how many patients a student has seen within a day. This is a report that reports information on students' timesheet along with their patient logs. So that is that I think partially would help you to assess how, within a given period of time, how the student has been using their time at the clinic.
Thank you, Shubda. Yeah, I think that partly addresses what Joni is calling out. The only thing that it wouldn't have is the evaluation data. But definitely, out of all the time that the student spends in a clinic, how much of that time did they spend on actually getting patient interaction is what that report calls out, if I remember it correctly. So definitely a lot of programs find value in that kind of data analysis.
Okay, I think we can move to the next part. Okay, so apart from the student progress related reports, there are a few more reports, or there is a general theme of also producing aggregate reports. One way to look at aggregation would be from the point of view of a site. So how students have been performing, or students, what kind of patients they are seeing, and how they're logging their time when they're placed at a specific site. You could get those insights through a site aggregate report. This would be available under a site's profile for you to to make sense of how what kind of experience the students have been receiving when they are placed at a particular site. We would also give another feature wherein we would generate a rating for the site based on how students have historically rated the site. The school may decide if they want to expose this rating to students, but yeah, at least for the schools, this would be available by default, and they could decide whether students should see the rating that has been derived based on the past placements that have happened at the site. Similar kind of a view would be generated for preceptors. So we do have preceptor profile within Prism, and you would see how the preceptor has, whenever the students have worked with a preceptor, how they have logged their patients, and how they have logged the time, and how they have performed across their evaluations and assessments. The third type of aggregation is question level aggregation, again for you to understand how historically students have performed against specific questions. Uh, we understand that particularly physicians assistants programs do need these kind of reporting, but this is something that in general as well will again help generate important insights. So we'll be making this available for everybody. So these are also some of the reports that will be coming up in next few months. Let's go to the next slide.
So, Shubda, there is a comment by Joni on patient logs that she says that it's helpful to review a student's exposure to the kind of encounters based on age groups, so that if there are gaps that the student are not getting enough encounters for a particular age group, they can make their future placements at those locations where they can help the student fill those gaps. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that today's patient log statistics report can give them that
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, so we do have in the general reports that Kanti explained in the beginning, we do have a report called patient log statistics report. That report gives you all of this breakdown of the demographic breakdown of the patients that students have logged. It also gives you a breakdown of the ICD CPT codes that the students have selected. So you can look at the logged data through lenses of all of these different criteria. So that is already available in the system.
Okay. And just a reminder, we have 1 minute left just to give you an idea.
Yeah, this is the last report that I wanted to discuss. So for timesheet,
Okay. Shubda, can you hear us? I don't know. I am not able to hear you. I don't know if it's just me.
Yeah, we have lost Shubda's audio. Shubda, can you hear us?
Okay, maybe in the interest of time, I can continue.
Yeah, please.
We just at the end of the session, so just let me complete this. So for the timesheet also, we are trying to see if this type of a calendar view would help our schools, because this will give an easy interface for them to see where the student is going for which day and how many hours they have been logging in. So this is also something that we are trying to include in our reports that we are working in the next few months. Okay, with that, I think we are towards the end of the session. If you can stay, we just have two more poll questions that we want to hear from you all. So we have recently rolled out the forms for didactic courses. So up until now with Prism, you are able to use learning activities
within
for.
didactic courses.
Oh, you are back, Shubda.
Yeah, am I not audible?
Yeah,
You're
you
audible now.
just now. We lost you. I don't know if you are speaking, but we were not able to hear you.
Oh, I was speaking. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I
I
don't
can
know what happened.
continue, Shubda. That's
Yeah,
fine. I can take it from here if you are having
yeah,
audio. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So we have recently rolled out the learning activities for the didactic courses as well. So now, if as a program, if you want to have your students fill out any surveys or forms, you can do that for your didactic courses. But we also want to see if we can extend that to the cases, the patient logs, and the timesheets as well. And we are looking for some more feedback from you all to see or those learning activities are also helpful, because we definitely understand forms is something that most schools would use, but we also want to know if we extend it to timesheet and patient log for didactic courses, would you be using that functionality? I think one question on logging any cases for the students is on. So if you can answer that. We also have another question, similar question for timesheets.
All right, folks, so we have about 38% of you who have voted. I'll give it about 10 more seconds and then we'll close up this poll and open up the next one. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close this poll here, share the results with you for a quick second. And let's go ahead and open up our next poll. All right, and we'll give you guys about 10 more seconds to go ahead and put in your final votes in. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share those results with you as well. It looks like you guys do not have a need for these types of activities with didactic courses.
Okay, that's actually very helpful to for us to know. So with that, we are at the end of today's session. Thank you everyone for joining. If you have any comments, you can always send us an email or use the comment section. And thank you everyone. Thank you for your time today. Over to you, Rocio, if you want to.
And that brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you folks for sticking around. If you have a few minutes, we'd love to hear from you. Stick around once the webinar ends for a short survey to let us know how we're doing, what can be improved, and any additional topics you'd like to see in the future. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.